Where would we be without the various products delivered by the men and women in the trucking industry? Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast is a platform for professional long-haul truck drivers to share their journeys over the road, educating listeners about the trucking industry and lifestyle. Now, let's dive into the conversation on this brand new episode. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Healthy Conversations in Trucking. I want to take just a moment to introduce the guest on this episode, and then I'll connect our interview or our conversation. His name is Miguel, and he joins us from Germany. Now, Miguel is a big fan of the podcast, and he reached out through our website and submitted a request because we always invite guests to be on the podcast episodes. We're specifically looking for drivers who are over the road, and we are always asking for people in the United States. So Miguel reached out because he's in Germany, and he said, I have American heritage, so he's part American. I think his father is from Puerto Rico and his mother's from Germany, but he only spent a few years in the United States. The first few years he doesn't really remember. The majority of his life has been in Germany, but he's familiar with the United States and the culture. He's been here plenty of times for visiting family and so forth. But he listens to our podcast from Germany, and he just really wanted to share his story. He wanted to know if he would be okay for him to come on the podcast. And I was really intrigued to hear more about his story. So I'm sharing a bit about this up front because some of the things we don't cover in the recording, he and I discussed before I hit the record button. A few things to keep in mind is that he was very nervous. He said, I'm very nervous. My English is not so good. I thought his English was just fine. I think you will have no trouble understanding our conversation. I mean, I do have a bit of an accent myself from the South, which almost sounds like a different language. But I think you have no trouble understanding our conversation. You will clearly hear how passionate he is about driving, both on the things that he talks about that he really likes about this choice. And it is a choice. He said, you don't get into driving for the money where he lives. It's because you really enjoy what you do. And you'll also hear it when he talks about some of the challenges and how they're treated and the lack of respect. And I don't want to try to tell you too much in advance, but you'll clearly be able to hear that. And he even poses a few questions to his American colleagues. And I think I really appreciated him coming on the podcast. I think it's something that all of you will enjoy hearing. And I know he's listening because he said he's a big fan of the podcast. So Miguel, thank you again for coming on the podcast. And I really appreciate you doing that. And for all of you that are tuning in, I'm going to connect my conversation with Miguel right now. Well, thank you all for joining me on this episode of Healthy Conversations in Trucking. I've got quite a treat for you all. I've got a guest who's joining me from Germany. So I'm excited for this conversation. Hi, Miguel. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm still a little bit nervous to tell my U.S. colleagues how it works out here in Germany.
Well, there's no reason to be nervous, although I understand even when I'm a guest on another podcast, I have that same feeling at the beginning. But once we get to talking, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I hope so.
Well, I'm going to ask you some questions to just get to know more about you and your background and same questions I generally ask on the podcast. So I'm going to start with, just kind of getting to know you. So tell me a bit about yourself and how long you've been in trucking.
I'm not in trucking for so long. I'm when people ask me how do I came to this job or something, I say finally I'm in trucking. It took long. I'm since 1.5 years now trucker.
Okay.
And I'm in the long distance. Mm-hmm. No, not the long distance. Actually, in German we would say extended short distance. I drive around my hometown, or I'm never further or seldom further than 400 or 500 kilometers.
Okay.
Like right now where I'm parking, I'm like 200 kilometers, something like that, a 2-hour drive, 3-hour drive. We drive up and down in Germany, but my area is more always around. How it came to trucking. It's very funny. My father was a soldier here in Germany, And when they came from maneuver, I loved the convoy from them old Rios.
Okay.
The turbo whistle. That triggered me. Wow. The soldiers always, when they came out of the trucks, they showed us kids always the rifles, but that never interested me. Till today, the rifle, uninteresting. Step aside, please, and let me see that truck. And everybody then always said, you don't want to drive a truck. Do not do that. But I always wanted to do it so bad and try to do other things, tried it in sales, then tried a lot of other stuff. Some things were better, some things were worse. But no matter where I were, there's always a truck around. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't have no truck license because it's pretty expensive here. You got to pay it yourself. It's the way so the government pays it, but I'm too proud for that. I pay my stuff myself. And then I started in a small bakery, in a organic bakery. They had a little fleet, so I done the fleet management there and started getting into all that stuff. And one day I got up and I said, Rio, I'm coming. Took my money, went to school for altogether about 3 months, something like that. Made my license. Then I was 3 years afraid of driving truck. And it was just so emotional. It was too much. It was just, okay, I got a license now, but I
can't actually do it.
Now actually do it. I mean, I'm by the fire brigade, and we have trucks too, but they're small trucks, or not small, but they're far away from big. Mm-hmm. And I tried to satisfy my hunger there, but that didn't work out too good. And then 1.5 years ago, I came in this company. We haul building materials, and the biggest truck there is legal in Germany, the heaviest truck with a crane and everything what small boys want, this truck has.
Wow.
So I started out, and now I'm here.
So you got over the fear and went all the way to the big. So you got over your fear and went all the way to the biggest truck.
Yeah, it wasn't really it wasn't really a fear. It just was that was the big goal. That was the thing. That was it. Mm-hmm. And what if it's not as good as I can imagine? What if it's not? What if what people are saying it's true, which it turned out what people are saying is true, because it's actually not a very nice job. You've got to love it. Because if you don't love this job just to make money, nothing you want to do.
Yeah. So you don't spend the night in your truck. You're home every night? I'm out from Monday to Thursday. I'm out. Okay.
And I come home Thursday.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm 3 nights in the truck because I'm that was the big point. I'm making my logistics not master, bachelor.
Okay.
In, doing that on the side Saturdays.
Okay.
So I got a day off, and then I only work 4 days.
Okay.
Which is enough.
Yeah. So this is, you said extended short distance.
Extended short distance. Yeah.
Okay.
Germany is not that big. You can cross Germany in 1 day from all the way down to Munich to Berlin. That's a day trip. Mm-hmm. Then maybe a little further.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to point that out, because here in the United States, we'll forget that how big our country is and how much territory is covered, because each of our individual states are the size of many countries. And so what you just described as far as Germany, I'd have to look it up to see what size it would equate to with one of our states here. But I think we forget, like you said, you can cross the country in a day.
Basically, yes. I think that should be possible. Maybe 1 day and 2 hours, but it's not much more.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid when I was with my parents in the U.S. on vacation, and we used to like travel for weeks. We used to drive and nothing changed.
Yeah.
You're like 5 hours. When we visited people, they said, it's right around the corner. And then you drove there for 2-3 hours. That's like, it's not around the corner. That's a day trip. I mean, we got to come back,
That's right.
So that's a little different. Yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. And so a year and a half and you're hauling building materials.
Yes.
All right. So what is your favorite part of the country to travel in?
My favorite? Oh, that changes every day.
Really?
Yeah. There were a few months ago, I drove a lot to Berlin. That was great. Berlin, I was there where everything happens in Germany. There's Angela Merkel, lives there, or now Scholz. That was wonderful. Look at our the Kanzleramt, the German White House, and ate all kinds of foods there and walk around. And then it was Munich. Munich was it. And but actually, if I think about it, while I talk about it, it's East Germany. While I'm talking, because of the food. The food is the best there. It's cheap and it's good and it's homemade most of the times. Not always, but most of the times. Yeah.
Well, I like good food, so that's a good reason to make it your favorite part of the country.
While I was talking, I started to think. I said, "Yeah, in Munich the beer is good, but in West Germany the beer ain't bad either." So actually, okay. Up north, the beer is not good, but other things are good maybe. But the food and the beer is in East Germany. It's the best. Old East Germany, where it used to be the DDR. There's everything still all right in some corners.
Yeah. Is the weather pretty consistent across the state? I mean, across the country? Yeah. Is it?
We live in one time zone.
Okay. That's very difficult here. We have like 3 in the United States.
Yeah, I remember that. You always have to look when you were somewhere. What time is it here? So we have. Well, it's one time zone, and the weather is always the same.
Okay.
So most of the times when I call home, and I ask my wife what weather is, most of the time the same weather.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So, what do you like the most about what you do? What's your favorite part of trucking?
The favorite part about trucking, I cannot explain that actually. The truckers out there, my U.S. colleagues, they know what I mean. I mean, it's nothing better than just cruising down the road, and there's this certain moment the truck and the engine gets real quiet when it's like, and you just roll down the street, and it's like the weather is perfect. You maybe listen to some good music. It's just great. And you know what you're doing. I am moving 40 tons. I am moving a weapon. It's just a great feeling. You sit very high. Like we here in Europe, we have the flat nose trucks, so we sit real high, and we can look over everything. And that's a great feeling when you go in our towns. Our towns are real small. We have real tight streets, and that's the other cool moment. It's when you just need to know what you're doing. Yeah. When everybody gets out of the way for you, And if they don't get out the way, you have to right to honk the horn and open the window and yell out the window, get out of the way. I need the space. There's no way I'm going reverse here. No way. So you move. And you have somehow the right to do whatever you want to do. That's a very, very great feeling, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great feeling sometimes when people ask me, where are you going now? I'm going now all the way up south or north or west or east or whatever. Oh, that's nice there. Drink a beer for me or eat that or whatever. Where are you coming from? I'm coming from there. And then they say, what? This morning? Yes, I left this morning. And that's somehow a pretty nice feeling to say, yes, I'm a traveler. I move something.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best.
Yeah.
The communication under, it's not always, sometimes real bad, but I like being under a certain type of truckers and talk about the job. And it reminds me sometimes, I don't know if we stand there, the trucks on some parking lot, it's like I have in my mind, it maybe sounds awkward, but it reminds me like a cowboy, you know? just got off our horse, you know, after a long ride. It's fun. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely hear that in your voice for sure. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording about some of the, the downfalls of the parts that aren't so good or so pretty. So what is it about trucking that you would say is, your least favorite thing?
That's more than I like, actually, because I think when I hear your podcast, I hear very closely, and the colleagues, I think they just take a lot of good things out of it, just like I just done. I could tell you another hour how nice it is and what things I see and what things would happen, but the truth is you're never home. I got a 3-year-old son, which I hardly see. Yeah. If I see it, I'm tired because I have to work long because we have truckers, we have long days. We wait in front of some gate for hours. I heard the U.S. truckers have to do that too.
Yep.
You wait for hours and nobody seems to care. And then you ask somebody polite and say, hey, I kind of got to get going. My time is running out. And I got to at least be there. Yeah, it takes what it takes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just had that today again. And I asked polite, I said, excuse me, I heard the forklift drivers, they're going out for lunch. Yeah, it can be. And I said, it can be, or is it? If yes, how long? I don't know that. Of course she knows. I mean, she's the lady there who knows the stuff. That's your job. Your job is to know stuff, to give me my papers and to tell me what to load. Mm-hmm. And now you want to tell me, but then they just treat you real bad. That's something I would like to know from my U.S. colleagues. Is that there too? Because we get treated here as a truck driver real bad. Nobody has respect from us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had a certain amount of jobs, and I came around a lot, and never was I somewhere where I've been respected so less respect I became, and it's sometimes, for example, today I had to get gas today at a gas station, and I don't know why, but somehow I messed up and I didn't drive straight into the gas station. But I thought, okay, there's nobody here, just let me hurry up. I don't drive a normal, or I drive a truck with three axle with a 2-axle trailer.
Okay.
But with the front wheels from the trailer, they move. That is the hardest to drive. I mean, every trucker knows. A lot of truckers, they just think of it, they start sweating. Yes, because it's very hard to drive. And then I tried to get out of that situation. It was so hard, and I was tired. I drove half of the night. I didn't sleep. From home, I left late home, and it was hot, and it's really hot right now. And I tried to get out of the situation in this gas station, and I just couldn't manage to push back my trailer a few meters back around the corner. It just wasn't manageable. And then I finally made it somehow, and it was pretty tight. I pull over, I look in the mirror, I look out of the window, I said, ooh, that should get tight back there. And I hit a trash can. Mm-hmm. And I see the guy there from the gas station. I stop right away. I get out. I say, hey, sorry, I just hit your trash can. Hope everything was all right. I'm sorry. And he like doesn't say anything but one sentence. Yeah, there's a little scratch, but you better go and do some more driving school.
Wow.
And I was like, really, I'm not the whiny guy, but that really actually hurts your feelings, mm-hmm. you know, because this is really, really, really not easy. And people just don't know that when you drive a semi-truck or truck, that you only see when you're driving backwards, maximum 30-40%. The rest is blind. Mm-hmm. The rest is trusting your gut. The rest is driving with your ears and praying to God that I don't hit nothing. And then the people here treat you in the gas station, they treat you like that. Or when you go in a loading station, they treat you like that. I can't explain that, because that was one of the worst experiences I made in this job. The first few times I was like, how can they say that? How can they do that? If I ask a simple question, why don't I get a simple answer? Why does nobody really, really care? Why does nobody care that and it's like that in Germany. I know in the US it's different. It's two things. Your truck license and your car license are two separate things. If I drive too long, if I have an accident, whatever, this is my ass on the line, to put in the right words. Mm-hmm. This is my license. This is gone. That means 6,000 euros gone. If I hit something and it's my fault, I pay. Mm-hmm. If I killed somebody, I pay. You're always in Germany, it's your private thing then. If I hit a car, of course, the insurance pays, but if you like have something big. And the thing from the rest of the community in Germany treats you like crap, like you don't exist. I get at least one middle finger a week because somebody cuts me. I don't see him. I got to step on the brakes. I'm trying to stop now 40 tons, and then I got to accelerate again. I honk the horn. Somebody shows me the middle finger. And you're like, what are you doing? I just could have killed you, you idiot. And
that's awful.
That's for you. Yeah, that is really bad. That makes me really, really, really sad. And I talk a lot about it with my colleague. And I say, he does this job for long years. And he says, yeah, don't listen to that. That's people, they don't know better. But I said, but why do they do that? Yeah, and then he says, we're just truckers. We're not worth nothing. Nobody cares. Nobody wants us. Nobody wants to see us. Everybody wants to have the goods. We don't have no parking lot in Germany, so we have to park. We park in the worst areas where you don't want to stand with a truck. Where I'm parked right now, I don't want to wake up tomorrow morning because I know I got to back them up backwards in the dark. But I didn't find nothing else. And then, yeah, I could now keep on going for hours. What I experienced here in the last 1.5 years, that made me really upset and angry. You get in a lot of fights. The drivers under themselves, they get in fist fights because of stupid stuff. They get literally in fist fights. And you stand next to them and you said, what are you doing? And then the police has to come and this and that. And you think, then you know how far this machinery is already gone down the road, you know, that the drivers themselves don't care about the driver next door. They just don't care.
Yeah.
Because they have to see that they somehow survive. And it is survival because the trucking industry in Germany, it's going down the road. A German trucker does never talk about good money. Never. He would never say that because it's just not true. By us, the East Europeans are driving. I think your husband said he's now hauling for Amazon. Is that right? Do I remember that right?
No, it's not Amazon, but he was hauling cars, and he left cars, and he's just hauling like general freight.
But he said the word Amazon. Here in Germany, that is Amazon. A German trucker doesn't want to hear nothing from Amazon because they pay under minimum wage with a lot of tricks. And just to maybe try to put it a little in perspective, it's very hard in Germany or in Europe. They make 800 euros a month. They're out for 4, 5, 6 weeks with tricks because that's not legal in Europe. You got to come home every 2 weeks max. But they do that with tricks. And then they get paid 800 euros, and the rest is like they get money. We call it, I don't know, Spesen. That's for eating and drinking. You get money every day. And that's how they somehow fill up their pay, so it's worth it for them. And sometimes we see this in Middle Europe. I mean, it's like the U.S. We're a good country. We have everything and more that we need. And you see that there, and that is, if you talk with them, some of you can talk with, they don't talk no German, of course, and how they're treated and how they're, it's crazy. It's not explainable. Some people would have to see that, and it makes me sad. It makes me real sad how they treat them and where they sleep and how they sleep, and all they eat is junk because they cannot afford a restaurant here. They just can literally not afford it because they got to send it to their families. And yes, the bad side. I guess I have to stop now because I never get done.
Well, it's interesting though. There are some, when you reached out, you said that, when you reached out to me about the podcast, you said you were listening and you noticed that some of the same challenges exist here. And I think, I don't know to the same level, to the same extent, but I hear often about how drivers are treated. I hear the long waits, when you're trying to unload or to get loaded. And I do hear often how the people sometimes when they're waiting to get loaded, they don't really care how long you're waiting. I definitely hear about the stress of the driving, and I'm sure the drivers here in the United States are getting the middle finger quite often. And I may start asking that question. But it's not okay. No. I think that one of the reasons that I'm so serious and dedicated to this podcast is because I really do want to host these stories on this platform. Because as you said, speaking for your experience in Germany, and I hear all the time from the drivers in the US, is the general public, we want the goods to our house. We want to be able to go to the store and get what we need, but we don't think about how it's getting there and the respect for the men and women who choose this profession to get those goods delivered across our countries. It needs to be improved. And that's the same. It's sounding like it's more than just the US. Now you're sharing a lot of the similarities in Germany, and I'm assuming that it's more than just in those two countries.
What makes me, when I started hearing your podcast and the word health, I mean, most of the truckers were visiting you. They was talking about snacks. By the way, the one with the bags. Don't eat nothing in bags. That was great.
Oh,
that
was
great.
I think that was BJ. Yeah.
Do not eat anything in bags because that cannot be healthy. But my second thought was a different thought, because overweight is, of course, a problem. I mean, of course, what you eat is, of course, but overweight is stress. I mean, overweight comes from stress. There are a lot of studies, because your body is always in alert somehow. And I know that too. If I'm in a lot of stress or you get in an argument and a fight, whatever, here at work, and then I get in the truck and then I empty my refrigerator because I'm frustrated and that was something. Stress is the biggest health risk, I think, in trucking. And that's in the US probably the same way.
Yeah.
A lot of back problems come from stress, overweight, smoking like a chimney. That's another subject. Smoking like a chimney. I'm all the way up front there. And I don't understand why nobody can do something against that. Say, okay, we have to reduce the stress, but we got to keep our people healthy, you know?
Yeah.
And I noticed that it's not, I don't want to say it's not doing me no good, but I noticed how the last 1.5 years changed me and how that really got to me. I'm trying to now figure out how the best way to manage it and just keep a lot away from me. Mm-hmm. But it's still there because when you're somewhere, you just know you're just a trucker. You're just a trucker. And nobody cares and says whatever to you. Learn driving. By the way, I stopped then. I jumped out of my truck. I was very upset. That's maybe my Puerto Rican gains. I don't know, but I got very loud and very clear. And I got very close. And I told him, can you drive a truck? Get in there. Show me. I said a lot of bad words. I said, get in there. If I would have had a baseball bat, I would have got it because it upset me so bad. And I wanted to see if he can do it. But he didn't do it. So I guess he can't do it. It's just the way you talk with a trucker. Mm-hmm.
Well, Miguel, I'm going to ask you this one more question. I guess we've gotten into some deep conversation on this episode. But speaking about how stress is affecting you, and it's like I agree with you about the risk factors associated with stress. How are you addressing this high level of stress? Like, what are you doing to kind of counteract that, or to just really deal with the amount of stress with your job?
What really helps me a lot is I got my dog with me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not alone. I got my dog with me. And I go take a walk, a fast walk. I've got my walking shoes in my truck, and then I change clothes. And I don't go running because I cannot sweat, because same like U.S. drivers, so we don't have showers everywhere.
Yeah.
So we got to keep it low on the sports. But I go 1.5 hours, or something in between 1 and 2 hours. I go walking.
Okay. Yeah. I love walking myself. That's my exercise of choice. And that's a great way to manage stress. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hate to hear so much of the weight that you have on you with the role and the work that you're doing. But I do appreciate you taking some time and sharing that here on this podcast. It is apparently the good outweighs the bad because you're still doing it, right?
Yes. It is. It's a trucker in Germany is not, like I said, no job to make money. Mm-hmm. No job to make money. It's something you just like doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great sometimes. Sometimes they're great, really great days.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you for what you do, and I'm really glad that you reached out to us, to be a guest on the podcast. I really appreciate you sharing your story. And I'd like for you to continue to share this podcast with your colleagues. And I invite any of the Americans here that are listening who would like to address some of the questions that Miguel has raised and to share, please come to our website, become a guest. This is a really great platform for you to share your story and, over the road in the U.S. and abroad. So thank you again, Miguel. Really appreciate you. And we'll have to keep in touch.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Because when I started here, nobody helped me and I didn't know. But there was one colleague, and I would like to, because I will then send them the podcast if you put this on air. Yeah. I would say it I say it in English. I wanted to say thank you, Alex, for all the hours you put with me on the phone and how much you taught me over the phone and how much he helped me. He really helped me out in hard days, hard situations, where I really thought I'm going to put the key out of the ignition for the last time. And that's something very important. Good colleagues. Good colleagues is very important.
Yeah.
And thank you for that, Alex. I really mean that.
Oh, that's really awesome. You have to make sure you share this with him. I'm sure he'll appreciate that message.
I will. All I want to tell him is just hear the last 10 seconds. That's all you need. Because he don't understand the English. I already asked him. He doesn't understand the English.
Well, this is a good way to also remind everyone the importance of, just helping each other out. So a great way to wrap up this conversation. Well, you have a great day, Miguel. I was going to call you Alex. Miguel, and thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast. Learn more or be a guest on a future episode by visiting healthyconversationsinTrucking.com or simply HCITpodcast.com.